All right, through the trapdoor, chapter 16. Lots of good stuff about this one. But one of the first questions I have is, if you had to make a pineapple tap dance across the floor, how would you do it? That's like a crazy
Is there
exam
more than one way to do this?
Yeah, I don't know if there's more than one way,
I would
but it is
do it
crazy
first
for.
because it will hurt my hand, and then I'll go like this.
I say YMCA because nobody can resist dancing along to YMCA.
Yeah, that's a good
Nobody,
point.
not even an inanimate object.
Yeah.
An inanimate object. And then an inanimate as well. It's never gonna finish singing.
I just keep thinking about this stupid Mr. Plant, like the Planter's Peanut.
Yeah, right.
Like,
Yeah.
remember those commercials and he's like tap dancing, but I just keep picturing him instead of a peanut, he's a pineapple.
That's great. I love it.
The first thing that comes into my head.
Not a clue what you're on about, but I'll take your word for
The
it.
Planter's Peanut guy? You don't know the Planter's Peanut guy? With the
peanut.
monocle? Come on, guys. You don't know that? It's a classic of American snacks.
Other stuff don't, yeah. Anyway,
What else did you guys see in this chapter? What else?
This is a great Ron chapter.
Yeah,
This
I
is
know.
one of my favorite Ron chapters.
Yeah,
like
he
he
is-
really shines in this.
Yes.
Like he's hilarious, and like it's the chess chat. It's just
Yeah.
I just love him. It just,
Yeah.
he's just hilarious.
He's
I love
like
the part when they're going over. Well, she goes. Hermione always liked to go through their exam papers afterwards, but Ron said that's made him feel ill, and I can relate because once the
relatable.
test is done, I don't ever want to look at it ever again.
Yeah.
Ever burn it.
Yeah,
You
I'm
know?
with you. If I had a friend like Hermione that did it, my response would be the same exact one as Ron's.
God,
I'm
like,
like,
please stop.
no. We're not looking at the answers to see everything that we got wrong. Please, anything but that.
Sounds like torture.
What was your guys' favorite of the tasks actually that they go through?
I like Hermione's.
Yeah,
I like how
same.
she goes, this isn't magic. And she's like relieved. She's like, this is logic.
Yeah.
You know, she goes, you have some of the most talented and powerful wizards out there, but they would be stuck because they don't have an ounce of logic. Like, I love that. She's
Yeah.
using her brain.
Yeah.
How many of us, when we read this for the first time, actually had to like tried to stop and figure out the puzzle? Because
Yeah.
I know
Oh,
I
for
did. I
sure.
couldn't figure it
For
out.
sure.
Yeah.
But I tried.
Yep. I think
So I just hosted a movie night for the first movie because my friend is reading it for the first time. She's only seen the movies, but she's reading them for the first time now. And I actually almost did the whole thing, like bought the bottles and put in liquids. And then I realized post surgery, because I had just had surgery, I did not have the energy for it.
Oh man.
But I have in my Amazon, I have all the different bottle sizes that you need, everything
That's
so that
so cool. It bugs me that it's not in the movie.
I know, seriously.
yeah, same.
Oh, it's so irritating. I'm like, because that was like one of the really cool ones that I
Yeah.
don't know. I really like that.
Yeah. I feel like I wonder if they even just filmed it and they just kind of cut it from it. Because it was a really cool scene in the books. I loved it. It was one of my favorites of the entire thing. Like all the other scenes, they kind of come and go pretty quick, but this one, like, it's definitely even like in Goblet when they're going through the Sphinx's little riddle. It's like that where you pause the book and you're like, okay, let me figure this out before like I go on. And I loved it.
Sorry, they're like interesting to read, but I feel like out of all of the tasks, it's the least interesting to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Yeah, yeah.
like,
True,
Visually,
it's not
yeah.
cinematic at all.
no, like
Yeah.
reading it is definitely one of the best bits. Same with the Sphinx.
Yeah.
But when you're watching it, like
It's like the Jeopardy
all of
music
this
just comes on for the whole
intensity.
scene.
yeah, you're like waiting for something to go on, and suddenly it's like do do
You're just
do.
standing there
Yeah.
watching two people just staring at bottles.
Yeah.
Just- yeah, I get that. That's fair.
Yeah.
So that was a very boring, logical answer. I'm like, well, I think you'll find there's a reason they don't have it in there.
Yeah. Doesn't do very well visually.
I do like the part where with the devil's snare when she's like, I need to build a fire, but there's no wood. And of course, Ron, you know.
You got mad? Are you a witch or
Yeah,
not?
it's such a good line.
Yeah. But he's still roasting her for it even after they're safe. He's like, honestly, really? Like,
Doesn't that come up later
Wonder-
sometime, that quote? Doesn't it come back at some point?
She say it to him about something
Ooh,
Yeah.
that'd be
in a
great.
later book.
Doesn't she throw it back? I can't remember.
I would
can't
love
remember
that.
either, but I think she definitely does. Like, she says to him, like, "Oh, you're a wizard," when he says,
Yeah.
"You can't do something." Forget what it was.
I don't remember. We'll have to keep our eye out for it.
Yeah, we got to find that because it'd be great.
Sure. Yeah, I can't think of what it was, but
She's been
kinda-
you know she's been storing that one up for years. She's been like, oh, it's in my back
Yeah.
pocket. I'm gonna use this at some random time in 10 years. I'm gonna get it back for it.
Imagine the quote's actually in the epilogue.
Yeah.
But like, it makes sense for her because I mean, she's a muggle. She's new to this.
Yeah.
When you're in a stressed environment, you tend to resort back to your default because it's too difficult to put on a kind of persona when you're stressed out. So she's probably like under pressure, and she's just reverting back to how she's lived the first 11 years of her life. And she's like, "Oh well, we've got to do this." And he's like, "What is wrong with you?" She's like, "Oh yeah, like what is wrong with me?"
That's a very good point.
But then whatever, I wish I remembered the quote when she gives it back to him or what the context was, but I feel like he's not got an excuse.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Hermione's in her first year and she's like a little kid and Ron's like an 18-year-old, like, yeah. I also love this in the very beginning. Harry's conviction is actually shocking in the first book when I reread some of this, of like how convinced he is of what he is doing is the right thing. And like there's a line where Hermione is pleading with him and says, "You can't," said Hermione. "After what McGonagall and Snape have said, you'll be expelled." "So what?" Harry shouted. "Do you understand? If Snape gets a hold of the stone, Voldemort's coming back." And I love his conviction here because we obviously are like the omniscient readers. We know what's going on and we know that like Harry is the hero of the story. But from a different perspective, because we just kind of came to this chapter in the 7th book with our first time readers, where essentially Voldemort's pride and thinking he is the only one who's privy to like secrets and to knowledge is really like his downfall. Does Harry have that to some extent, where he's because he really throughout the entire series thinks he's right on everything? It's different from Voldemort because Voldemort just like down looks at other people. Like he thinks other people are like, scum and not worthy of his knowledge. And I guess this is true for all people. Everyone kind of thinks they're right in their own way all the time. But Harry is just convicted of it and like convinced of his rightness at all times.
Back though, when you were 16, you probably thought you were right.
Yeah,
about
agreed.
everything.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And this
Fault.
is even him younger.
How many
This is,
times were you right? Like,
yeah,
truly.
0.
This is my favorite line, by the way. I know we're not there yet for this chapter, but I had it highlighted and I had it up already when you started reading it. I also just love his conviction. And also, it's very logical. Like, yes, like, if he doesn't do something about it, he's going to die.
Yep.
Yeah, that's my favorite part in this chapter, that whole spiel that he goes on. That's absolutely my favorite part. It's so powerful, and it's like he's really just like, taking a step back and looking at what is the heart of the matter, what really matters here. And I think it's really stunning that he's already talking about himself dying, like that he's already almost in a way, it's like a little bit of acceptance of it already, that if Voldemort comes back, he's going to kill me. It's really stunning for an 11-year-old, I think. I think there's a lot of wisdom actually in that passage. Yeah,
agreed. It is crazy. Like it's like his back is up against the wall and he like knows if this doesn't happen, then he's kind of a goner. So he has to make a decision about it. But his boldness in the face of that is pretty remarkable. I don't know of a single kid his age that would kind of have that. I was not that at all when I was his age, you know, brash about certain things, but something like that, it's a life or death matter. Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
And just the
Do you think
courage
if
as
he'd
well.
been thrust,
Yeah.
do you think if he'd been thrust into that position for the first time when he was, say, 16, it would have been the same? Because obviously, when you're younger, you do have fears, but you have fears in a different sense than you do. I feel like when you get older, your fears kind of grow. So maybe because he was introduced to this sort of chaotic life so early on, do you think that if he was introduced to this later in life, that he would have been so willing to sort of sacrifice himself in a way?
I think in his case, yes, because I think it's just part of his personality. Like this is just he doesn't know what else to do. Like nothing else ever occurs to him. You know, running away is not an option. Like, you know, trying to find somebody else to do it is not an option. Like he always feels like he's the one that needs to do it, and there's never like a sense of fear. It's just a duty. Like he has a duty to do this. You know.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's true. It
That's
doesn't
a
really
fascinating
show many
question.
signs of fear.
Yeah, he's the chosen one. He is the marked one to do that.
I think also that he could. I mean, the first time that I felt fear of death was when I was 11, because my grandfather passed away when I was 11. So I think he could definitely feel afraid. He could even be feeling afraid right now, even though he's saying all this. You know, like I think there's some quote, right, that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the like willingness to act in the face of fear. So I just, yeah, I think it's a really beautiful little speech.
Yeah.
He's able to see the big picture. You know.
Yeah. I really love the tension in general for this series, or for this chapter before they start. Like all three of them are really feeling it, and I feel like that's something that I forgot existed in the first book. But it's heavy. This whole section, they really feel like we're like exactly what you just said. They are scared, but they're gonna do it anyways.
Yeah, there's a lot at stake. I mean, if they go down there and sure enough they find Voldemort down there, like there are 3 11-year-olds. But they go, there's like no question in Hermione or Ron's mind
Yes. Yeah.
at all.
Yeah. That's probably one of my favorite.
Again, what I'm saying, like when you're 16, you've got a little bit more common sense. So if they'd
Yeah.
have never had any sort of dangers in that school up until that point, like, okay, so maybe it's in Harry's personality, but do you think Ron and Hermione would have been this willing to do this, say, if this happened out of the blue in fourth year?
Yeah, for sure.
Or is it just
They
because
did
they're
it
younger?
for Harry, I think, too. Like, I love it because
Oh,
it was
yeah,
like
no,
the very first
absolutely.
time. Yeah, like it's one of the first times, like like, of course, since it's the first book, but it's the first time it says like, "Oh, come off it! You don't think we'd let you go alone?" Like, he's so willing to go and do it by himself, but they're just like, "There's no way! Like we got you, you know?" Like, I love that about them.
This is such a great moment in the whole series too, because I love that.
Ride or die.
Yeah, it's like one of my favorite lines in it is when he goes, "I'll use the invisibility cloak," said Harry. "It's just lucky I got it back." And then Ron says, "But will it cover all three of us?" Like, it's for Ron and Hermione, it's
No
like,
question.
of course we're coming with you. It's ludicrous that we're not. And I kind of feel like Harry has probably always had this like, you know, I want to protect other people kind of thing, like saving other people problem complex. And I think he really probably develops it here when he thinks he's going in alone, and he's doing this probably because he wants to keep his friends safe. But at the same time, when they come in safe, like everything that he does, it's like, okay, I need to keep my friends safe in this, which is interesting. Becky, your question is fascinating because I keep thinking about the graveyard scene in the fourth book with how Harry's response is a little bit different. And I mean, it's a different situation there. So like Harry doesn't march into that one ready to like, you know, dethrone Voldemort. But I wonder if 11-year-old Harry would have tried to like duel Voldemort in the graveyard or something like ludicrous or crazy. Like what would he have done because he just maybe doesn't have the understanding of who Voldemort is, rather than what he does is he doesn't save Cedric, but he at least saves the dignity of Cedric by bringing him back, because that's his primary motive in that story, in that like scene. It really is getting away, but it's like, okay, I need to bring Cedric's body back, which kind of puts him at risk even, which is pretty crazy. So that's a great question. I don't know. It's fascinating. I think that.
And there's also an interesting moment in, I think it's the Ghoul in Pajamas chapter in Deathly Hallows, where they're like at the burrow getting ready to go, and like Ron and Hermione have just like shared like the lengths to which they've gone to like prepare to leave with Harry and go like fight Voldemort and like hunt down Horcruxes. And Hermione has a quote. He's like, and like Harry's like still holding on to trying to keep them safe, like, no, you don't have to come. And Hermione says something like, our minds were made up months ago. And she's like, years, really.
Yeah.
And this is like this is one of those moments where like they made up their minds years before going to like battle with him. And this is one of those moments.
Yeah. It's crazy. It was made up in the first book when they went into the this little like obstacle course. It's cool. It's great.
I think the piece that you read also really ties into the 5th book, I want to say, when he's talking to Dumbledore about the prophecy, and he's like angry about the prophecy, but then asking like or Dumbledore tells him, what would you have done if you didn't know the prophecy existed? And he says, I would have fought anyways. So I just feel like this is like a really good mirror to that conversation, because we see exactly that conviction that he has later on. We see it already here at 11.
Yeah. And you know, people love Daniel Radcliffe. That this was my biggest qualm with him, that maybe we just didn't fully get that in this section here, but like in the books, book Harry is, you know, everyone makes the difference between book Harry and movie Harry, but like the humor that he has. But this is the moment when I went, and I remember in the books, this is the moment when I went from, you know, I like him as a character, I really think he's cool, to being like, I'm ready to fight and die for this kid right now, you know? Like, I'm ready to go to battle for this kid because of what he says in this little section. He is just remarkably attuned to the situation that's going on, and unbelievably brave, so courageous. I love him. I think he's such a great character here.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of some of the little speeches that he gives to the DA that really have people rallying to his side.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
I love that scene in Order of the Phoenix. And he's just like, you don't know what it's like, you know, and it's kind of like this. Like he's always able to see the big picture. Like he's not focusing on the minutia of it. He is like, look, this is what we need to do. We just need to do it. You know? Like it's if we don't do this, there's not going to be anything left to fight for.
Yeah.
You know, so that you really don't have any other choice. Like being scared is not an option. Like it's irrelevant at this point.
Yeah.
It's not even that being scared is irrelevant. It's just it gets in the way. Like, of course he's scared. I'm sure he's not like, oh, I'm not scared. But it's like, it's not helpful to focus on it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so good.
So I've got the quote that mirrors the "Are you a witch or what?" If you want to hear it.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
you found it.
Where is it?
It's from book 7. So really, she's waited 6 years for this.
She's been waiting.
Yeah.
And it's when they're waiting to go into the. They're trying to get into the Whomping Willow, and it's going mad.
Oh
and
yeah.
Ron goes, I can see the place, pants Ron, if we just had Crookshanks again. Crookshanks, counters Hermione, are you a wizard or what?
That's exactly
like
it.
word for word.
Yeah.
She has been storing that one. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I love that it was in the last book.
Yeah.
Like, the last book is so perfect.
It's so good.
And then he uses Wingardium Leviosa, doesn't he?
Oh my gosh.
He does.
Yeah.
Right.
Really? That's so
Unflipped.
great.
I'm so
It all
glad you
came full
found that.
That is such a good find.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
What else? What else did you guys like in this chapter, or see, or notice, or any points of discussion?
Somebody's got something to say.
Yeah.
Have you guys
Agree.
heard the theory that, well, I know you guys have heard of the whole Dumbledore having a plan thing, but have you specifically heard about the theory that Dumbledore assumed that Neville would be part of this trio and that, or that would end up going through all the puzzles at the end? So the fact that they end up the first trial is something that Neville would have been good at. Kind of sets up that maybe Neville could have gone with them.
Interesting. So
We've
wait.
all got a trap.
So was he expecting the Trinity to be a quadrinity right here? Was he expecting like the group of three to be a group of four when at the beginning, or when they were going into the like at the very end, like right here when they're about to leave?
I think that the theory is that Neville would have just been friends with them the whole entire time, right? Because Neville is the one that goes into the forest in the books, right? It's not Ron.
Yep.
So there is much more Neville in the book in general than there is in the movies.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a matter of he was not there with the troll that like really cemented that the trio as a trio, that potentially is why Neville's not as close to them. I don't know, maybe that's just totally off and there's a million different reasons why he wouldn't be one of them, but I do think that it's close. Like, if there could have been situations where you change a variable and somehow Neville now becomes part of the group that is with them the whole entire series.
You kind of wonder why he's not more part of like the group. It doesn't seem like Neville has like a friend right now, which is really sad. But it almost seems like he doesn't have a friend till like almost the fifth book. Like him and Luna. I love this. That's like one of the only additions to the movie that I actually kind of like, where him and Luna kind of get together. I think it's cute. But him and Luna with the DA.
When I read the books and found out they didn't actually end up, because when I watched the movie, I was like, "That's so perfect."
Yeah.
And I read the books, and I'm like, I get to the end, and I'm like, "But what? What about Luna?"
Yeah. He gets with Hannah Abbott, which I'm okay with. I think that's great. But I also it just makes me sad for Neville, but I'm like. Not that okay, like again, they're what, like 11 years old, 12-year-old kids at this moment in their life. So it makes me sad that they didn't have maybe more compassion towards someone like Neville, where they like bring him into more things and do more things with him. But you think of that as like a 30-year-old rather than an 11-year-old. 11-year-old, you're just trying to be cool and like have your friends and do your own thing. You're kind of stuck in your own world.
Was Neville really ready for that kind of adventure when he was 11? Though?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a great point.
Like, I don't know if that would have been for the best for him. Like,
yeah.
Well, it could have been really good for him, but I don't think that. I feel like, I'm sorry, Neville, but he could have been a bit of a liability age 11.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
He's great.
I don't know if
that's the main thing.
I don't know if I agree, but not because I don't think he would have been a liability, but because I guess I subscribe to the idea of that you don't get responsibility because you're ready for it. You sometimes just get responsibility and you have to become ready for it, whether or not you wanted to or not. And I kind of feel that way about Harry and the two others. I don't think that Harry's the kind of person who like wants to be the leader all the time. He just gets thrust into that position. And I think that when it comes down to it and the pressure is on Neville, he rises up. He shows up.
Yeah, agreed.
How different would it have been if Voldemort had chosen Neville's parents instead of chosen Neville instead of Harry?
Yeah.
I always wonder that.
Yeah.
Because they make it very apparent that it could have been both of them.
Yeah.
I mean, either one of them.
Could have been Neville.
Joe needs to get into the
No, it's just-
multiverse and
but I
publish a
wanna
whole
know,
new
like,
series with that in mind. Oh my gosh,
why
please.
did Voldemort? Because it was up to Voldemort. Voldemort was the one that marked, So what made him choose Harry over Neville?
Because he saw him as a half blood. He saw him more of himself in Harry than
Versus
the
Neville
pure
being
blood.
the
Yeah.
pure blood.
Yeah, I think that's the reason that they give for that. But that's another fascinating one. Was it just that? Was it just the half blood versus pure blood thing? Was there something else attached to it? Because Frank and Alice, like, they're my two favorite.
They were Aurors.
Yeah, they're my two favorite, like, under the radar characters that, like, aren't really mentioned that ton because of just the things that people say about them. But they were probably. It seems like everyone loved them. It seems like they were crazy skilled.
Yeah.
They were Aurors. Like, they were good at what they did. So why did Voldemort go for, one person over another?
Well, my personal interpretation of it is that, yes, that is true, but I don't think that just Voldemort marked Harry. I think it was Voldemort and Snape. Because I think that the fact that Snape asked Voldemort not to kill Lily is the only reason that Voldemort was showing, if you want to call it mercy in that moment, and gave her the choice of dying or not dying. And he would not have given Alice that choice. So I don't think that her sacrifice would have had the same impact on Neville as Lily's sacrifice had on Harry, because it would not have been a true sacrifice. She would have died either way.
Dang.
But that's just my opinion.
I love that theory. I think that's great. Although it kind of hurt. Yeah. I kind of love that, but I love me some Alice Longbottom. So don't slander Alice Longbottom. Her sacrifice would have saved everyone in the world. Come on.
Definitely did not mean it to slander Alice.
Yeah. I know.
All right. Okay.
Just because of Snape.
Yeah.
Voldemort gave her a choice.
Yeah,
because
agreed.
of what Snape said to him.
It was the choice that made all the difference. It's like the whole bedrock of the series is our choices that make us who we are. I love that. What else did you guys see in the series before we start wrapping it up? Or in the whole series? Yeah, in the entire series. Let's go through the whole series in this chapter.
It's all kicking off now, right? So it all began.
I want to know, what is the Bloody Baron like? How is he able to intimidate and control Peeves the way he can? He does? Like, what does he have over him? Or like, I don't know, because that was pretty cool whenever they were impersonating the Bloody Baron and Peeves is just like, oh, sorry,
Yeah, that's actually a great point. The Bloody Baron seems like he's like, maybe the most intimidating, scary looking ghost. So maybe it's just like the general aura of him is the most scary. But it's a great question. I loved in every read. I love when you come to the Bloody Baron where he's just like briefly mentioned in Ravenclaw's tale. I love that so much because like he's this looming character this entire series, and all of a sudden you get this like little iota of information about him, and it doesn't transform the character, but it gives you understanding for him. And I think that's such good writing. Like, it's just this random one-off character, and you get this little thing thrown in there. I think it's so good. Yeah, Peeves is how he's able to control Peeves. Fascinating question.
The only thing I can think is obviously Peeves is a poltergeist, so I don't know, doesn't he work off energy? So maybe the Bloody Baron has just got some really messed up energy that completely throws Peeves into bad state. I don't know. I don't really know how the consciousness of ghosts can manifest its way into poltergeists. That's a whole new kettle of fish. I don't know.
Yeah, that'll be the next book that you write.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like the only thing I can think of as to why Bloody Baron would have such a hold on him.
Okay, here's another random question. If you guys could add one task to this group of tests, what would you guys do?
Oh. A jigsaw puzzle.
A crossword puzzle.
Yeah, exactly. A good crossword. I'd be down with that.
That would be great.
Can
I
you
just
see,
like
like,
the image
can
of
you imagine, like, Quirrell and Voldemort's, like, back and forth trying to figure out the crossword?
Oh my god.
Oh,
Be
somebody needs
like,
to write
wait, 10
fanfic
down is
about that.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
I just
There's
love the
really
idea
not
of
very
like
much
them
spell
sitting
work.
down.
Yeah, there really isn't a lot of spell work, which is shocking. Like the troll probably was really the only spell work one.
Yeah.
But again, if you go into the theory that Dumbledore made it intentionally easy, so that it would be easy for Voldemort to get through there.
Yeah.
Because it is obviously very easy if 3 11-year-olds can do it.
So if he's making this whole thing easy, is he telling the professors that they need to make their things easy as well? Or is he just like is Voldemort essentially, or not Voldemort, Dumbledore essentially orchestrating this whole thing and bringing those things in? Is he just going up to like Pomona Sprout and being like, hey, can I, have some of this stuff, that this devil's ivy or this devil's snare that you have? And then he just places it himself. Because if he's telling the professors, which is very Dumbledore, he's definitely not giving them the whole story. He's definitely not being like, hey, I'm using this as bait to get Voldemort to come back because I want to see, test the character of Harry. And they're like, no, clearly we're not going to do this to an 11-year-old. This is absurd.
Didn't McGonagall and Snape, they were aware of the stone and of its being under some sorts of protection. So I feel like if they knew, then the other teachers would have also known.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
But they might not have known specifically that Voldemort was going after it.
True.
So, Dumbledore could have just been like, oh, well, we need it to be easy enough that we can come and go as we please. But,
Right.
It doesn't need to be too bad because it's in the castle, and by the time somebody gets there and gets past the dog, then it'd be fine. So he could have just asked for just some basic ones that somebody wouldn't accidentally end up going down there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's in first year they learned that sunlight destroys Devil's Snare. So it's not that big.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the Quidditch one is just, as long as you can fly a broom.
Yeah.
Chess, as long as you can play a game of chess. I think
as
long as you're brave enough to try, then you're gonna get past.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
I would never have gotten past the chess room.
Oh god, no. There's no way. I wouldn't have either. I would have died so fast. I wish I was better at chess.
There's definitely a difficulty setting on the side of the board. You could set it at hard, medium, or easy. They're quickly setting it to easy.
Is there a checkers setting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wizard's checker.
I like the concept of it. I always thought that the Wizard's chess thing was pretty cool. The fact that on a small set, a normal set, not a giant set, but they beat the crap out of each other. I love that. I think it's hilarious. I wish that they actually did that. It would make it more of it's a battle,
Yeah.
I also love that they an attachment to their owner or their player. Isn't that a thing where
Yeah.
Don't move that one, move him. He's a pawn.
That's what I need. I need somebody to tell me what to do.
Well, it's funny. We were even speaking about Star Wars before the entire podcast, but there's a Wizard's chess version of that in Star Wars. It's I think Chewie is playing Luke or something like that. Yeah, the holographic one. And one of the pieces comes and breaks the other one's back or something and throws him off the board. Something really violent. And you're like, oh, Harry Potter kind of snatched that from Star Wars.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, Wizard's chess is always
fun,
a cool
though.
concept.
It's just it's that whimsical side of the world that makes it to where everybody wants to live there and they want it to be real and
Yeah.
Why do we think Hermione is bad at chess?
They even said that she was bad at it, and they said that it was a good that losing good for her. Yeah.
She can't be good at everything. They gotta, give her. The author had to give her some flaws, some weaknesses, and she chose chess and Quidditch.
Yeah.
Yeah, she can't play games.
Yeah. Yeah, she but she is very good at logic, so I feel like she'd be able to pick up chess. I think that I think Hermione just doesn't value games. She doesn't play games,
Yeah.
Even,
frivolous.
Yeah, even in her relationship with Ron, she's not playing games. Ron's the one that's playing games. So
fun games.
Yeah, yeah, she definitely does. She doesn't but I guess she doesn't care to get better at chess. I think if she wanted to get better at chess, she could probably get better at chess way
agree with
quicker than
that.
Ron. I
Yeah.
think she'd be
I feel like she's just
Yeah.
like, that's a game.
Yeah.
I have more important things to do.
Yeah.
Like, I need
Yeah.
to read every book in the library before 7th
yeah.
year, you know?
Yep,
Right.
exactly. It's an interesting question though. You guys
I
have any
remember it being like, I remember it being a major fan theory that fans thought that Ron, just like the chess set, like, or the chess game foreshadowed, like Ron was gonna sacrifice himself for Harry, and we're like on the lookout for that.
Ooh. So like he's kind of like repaying it? Wait. So Ron sacrificing himself for Harry, that Harry was going to sacrifice himself for Ron, or what?
Yeah, either that or that later on down in the series, Ron was that like foreshadows that Ron sacrifices his life
yeah.
for Harry.
The fan theories between the 6th and 7th book were one of my favorite parts ever of reading it for the first time. Like how many theories people were coming up with.
It was so wild. And it
Yeah.
was like, people, like, they had nothing to lose.
Yeah.
They were just like, we're going
Right.
to throw it out there because,
so
just
fun.
for the record, like, right or wrong, like, I'm throwing it out there because this is my last chance, you
Yeah.
know? Everybody thought
I'm
Ron
so
was gonna
jealous.
die.
I would have loved to have been part
Yeah.
of the community at that point.
Oh my
Like,
It
gosh.
was insane.
It was so good.
It was so much fun.
'Cause-
Yeah, I legit thought Ron was gonna die. Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't-
Oh yeah.
okay, it was a toss up. I knew Hermione was gonna survive. I don't know why I thought this. I just was like, that'd be stupid for her to die. It was either Ron or Harry, and I was convinced that neither one, like one of them, was not making it out of this.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. Yeah.
like, totally. And then I really thought Hagrid was gonna die. I was like trying to mentally prepare myself, and so of course when the scene came, whenever like he fell off the broom and not the broom but the motorcycle, and it was just like,
Yeah,
I
you're
did
getting
not
ready
want to go
for
to the
it.
next page. I did not want to go to the next page. Like I was dreading it, and then like, of course, like I was so relieved when he was not dead.
Because I remember even when Danny and Jen were when that happened, they both I think were like shocked because Danny I think initially thought Hagrid was gonna die at that moment, and then we turned the page and he was like, oh, okay, I like he can breathe again. But that was even I remember in between the books, I 100% thought Harry was gonna just be like die and be done away with. But I still remember that my favorite theory was. And this is funny because I was talking about this with Lizzie, and Lizzie's like, she's the only character that I trust, which is McGonagall. And there was this big theory that McGonagall was really a Death Eater. And she's been orchestrating this whole thing behind the scenes between the 6th and 7th books. And I subscribed to that so hard. I was like, I love McGonagall. I think she's great, but I'm like, she's almost too perfect. Like, what are her
Imagine
flaws?
the feeling of betrayal. that
Oh
would have
my
been-
gosh.
You know what I mean? Like, people would have been like wounded.
Yes.
Like,
Yep. Which is again,
She's like that mom, like that stern mother figure. Like
Yeah.
she's mom, but not like.
I think it's just a marvel too, because yes, there were some people out there who were predicting, Snape is good in the end, but how well she wrote this vitriol and hatred that the reader is supposed to experience with Snape, because we're coming up to these chapters for Danny and Jen, and I don't think they are. I think they're going to be blindsided. Like Jen,
Yeah.
maybe.
Hope they are.
I know.
don't want them
Yeah.
to figure it out.
Yeah. Because Jen just
I
keeps
want it to
throwing
be
these
like
one-offs,
a
but
train
they're
hitting
jokes.
them, you know?
Yeah. Jen just keeps throwing these things out. She's like, oh, Snape's really good. But she's like holding on to this hope. But I think it was betrayed even a few chapters ago because they seem to have vitriol for Snape. And it's like every reader experiences that until you get to this end chapter where you're like, what the heck is going on? So that's why I can't wait for the next 2 chapters that we do a full discussion on, because it's like,
That's what I love about her, though. Like she wrote this guy to be like so unlikable, and he's a complete jerk.
Yeah.
He is not nice. In any other world, like he would be the bad guy, but
Mhm.
he has that one, like that last chance redemption,
Yeah, I know. It's so good.
He's still not any more likable. It's just
He's just a bad guy that's on the side of good.
Yeah,
But he's still
yeah,
a
yeah.
bad guy.
Yeah.
He's not.
I didn't know how to say it, but yeah.
Yep.
That's why I love him so much. Like I I wouldn't be friends with him, but I just think his character is
Yeah.
just so fascinating.
Yep.
For
Agreed.
sure.
I think one of the most complex written characters. Like I mean, I love literature, but I think he's such a complex character in all of literature. I think he's so good.
Now, whether Harry should have named his son after him,
Yeah, for sure. That's a little bit iffy, but yeah.
It's still a little overkill, but whatever.
I mean, it was a middle name and it was a second child.
Like, is Hagrid a joke to this guy? Like, why does Snape get a look in but not Hagrid?
He only does dead
Could you
people.
imagine
Yeah.
Little baby Ruby Potter. You don't even need to call it Ruby as Ruby. Would have
Imagine
been
if it was a girl.
adorable.
Like, and he's still
So
called
cute.
That's so cute. That's great. I love that.
We could keep going on for days about that name.
I
Name is
know.
awful.
Do we
Ridiculous.
know the eldest two's middle names? Do we know like Harry's
like Peter
Harry's
Pettigrew or something ridiculous?
Wormtail.
Oh my gosh. That would be so terrible. I think again, I was saying this before, but this is one of my favorite characters, or my favorite chapter for the characterization of Harry too, because we even have this line which I think is great, where Hermione says, "But Harry, what if you know who's with him?" "Well, I was lucky once, wasn't I?" said Harry, pointing at a scar. "I might get lucky again." Hermione's lip trembled, and she suddenly dashed at Harry and threw her arms around him. "Hermione, Harry, you're a great wizard, you know." "I'm not as good as you," said Harry, very embarrassed as she let go of him. And I love that, like, there's like, you know, they're shooting compliments back and forth to each other. But Harry really knows what's up here. He's like, "Hermione, you're like the best wizard that, you know, exists in this world." So
Sorry.
she's having a good time. It's great.
She's bouncing a balloon in the air right now. So.
Nice.
Yeah, that exchange between Harry and Hermione is really cute.
Yeah.
It's really sweet.
Mm-hmm. You guys have anything else in this chapter before we do favorite lines?
This is where it gets really good.
It's when it starts.
It's really good from this point.
It's more and more and more. Oh, I was gonna say that we were talking about how like Harry always knows, like he always sees the big picture, and like he just, you know, he does what he needs to do without really like necessarily maybe not feeling fear, but he doesn't show the fear. He feels it, but he doesn't show it. But Ron's kind of doing the exact same thing when he was like, "I have to sacrifice myself. It's got to be me."
Yep.
You know, and he's like, you know, he's like, "Do you want Snape to get the stone or not?" You know, and he's just like, "Look, this is what I got to do." Like, anyway, I was just.
Ron chapter.
I know, this is the best Ron chapter right here. I love it.
It's such a good Ron chapter.
This is also the chapter with the ending that you're just like, "I hate you. Why did you end it there?"
Oh,
Yeah.
I know.
I need to keep reading.
Yep. I love those. Yeah, I mean, you hate those, but you love those, because I have said this on the podcast for years, because we've been doing the podcast for like almost 2 years, which is, I think this is just, I think in her mind, she meant this as a bedtime story for the kids too. Yeah, simultaneously you read this and you like tear through it. But imagine like reading this to like your kids or like nieces and nephews, or like finishing on this chapter and being like, "We'll get to this tomorrow." And they have to go the whole night, a whole day thinking about what's going to happen. And you finally get to it and it's like, "Oh, it was Quirrell."
It makes
What?
it such a like page turner though when you're reading it, even as an adult for the first time, you know, because I have other friends. I have a friend right now. He's listening to the audiobooks that I've loaned them to him, and he's already on book 3, but he's like these are so easy to like, you know, like it's just, you want to keep reading. You don't want to stop reading. Like, they're page turner.
Exactly.
You know?
Yep.
We all know we wouldn't
so
be here
good.
if we didn't.
Yeah. So good. All right, guys, hit me with your favorite quotes for this chapter.
I have one.
I mean, you already read mine, so
Yeah, I've read a lot of the good ones.
Where is it? Hold on. I underlined it. Oh. He goes, "Flitwick told me in secret that I got 112% on his exam. You're not throwing me out after that." I'm like, the confidence. I love her so much.
You know, she flips
just
her
like,
hair in that
there's no-
moment. She's like,
Yeah. Yeah. She's just like, I'm awesome. They're not gonna get rid of me. I don't care. I could literally I could break into this and still yeah. I can't speak right now. My words have left me.
I mean, mine is the section that you already said, but I think specifically the line that I love the most is the part where he says, "Because I'm never going to the dark side. I'm going through that trapdoor tonight, and nothing you two say is going to stop me. Voldemort killed my parents, remember?"
Oh,
Especially
man.
because he's fresh off the Mirror of Erised there
Yep.
too, where he's just seen his parents, and that is his biggest desire. Like,
Yeah.
are you a witch or not?
It's-
Love it.
That is
After
so
that, I
good.
want you to read the entire
I know,
book.
seriously, just that alone. You're
all
a
the
good audiobook
voices.
reader.
That was great. I enjoyed that. More.
Okay.
I love that line. I love Neville's just little moments in this too. When he goes, "I'll fight you." Go on then. Try to hit me, said Neville, raising his fists. I'm ready. Just like that image, I mean, I love Neville with everything in me, but just that little image of him standing up. But I think my favorite is at the very end of this chapter where it says, Harry took a deep breath and picked up the smallest bottle. He turned to face the black flames. Here I come, he said, and he drained the little bottle in one gulp. I love that so much. Like, again, this is such a good Harry and Ron chapter here, but Harry in this moment and Harry in all these moments where this is really when I fall in love with him as a character. And I think that's such a good line. Like, he is just like, okay, I'm ready to do this. All right, guys. Well,
Like it's almost. Sorry, I was just gonna say. I feel like that's almost like a foreshadowing
yeah,
moment too. Like it's reminding me of when he goes into the forest, and
yes,
just like there's these moments where like he does have a lot of people surrounding him, but then there's these moments where it's just him and this really, really formidable darkness.
And he just has to go for it.
Yeah.
Even the imagery of like black flames that he has to walk through, like,
yeah, it's so good.
go Harry.
I know.
This kid who's been through so much,
I know.
he's still just like, I think that's what hits me every single time I read this series. He's had to go up against just the Dursleys and just being an orphan and all the other crap that he's had to deal with at school, but he still makes the right choices every single time.
Yeah, he's
just good. I love it.
He's the best. He is the best. Love him.
He's got a
Love
heart
him
of
to death.
gold.
Yeah, he really does. That's when like John was saying how this is when he fell in love with the character. I think this is like where all of us really did fall in love with him. We just love him, and we almost want to like do it for him because we don't want him to get hurt, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those moments. Yeah, you like see him and you're like if you're Ron and Hermione, you're doing the same thing that they're saying. They're like, no, I'll go for you, but they're like sacrificing themselves for him so that he can kind of do this. It's just it's like all of us are going to do the same thing because we love him. Well, guys, it was a pleasure. We will do the next chapter in a little bit, but thanks for joining. This is a pleasure.